Thank you for joining us on the Southwest Florida Business Podcast. I'm your host, Chris, and today I'm joined by Matt Barnhart from Amp Shots Media. This was an awesome conversation because I got to finally sit down and talk with Matt. We'd been talking on social media for probably a couple months now. We ended up actually getting in touch with each other because I'd put out an episode with Keith Dobman from My Shower Door, and he had done some work for them in the past. And actually, just as a side note, that's a little tidbit. If you've got a podcast and you're interviewing guests, there's a good chance that one of your guests will know your other guests, and then you can book more guests. So there's a little life hack for you. But we finally got together and had an awesome conversation about what it's like to grow basically an art business. I mean, they film awesome videos. It all started with pictures of cars, and that moved into real estate, and then videos, everything like that. So I enjoyed talking through the process of how this business evolved and how he looks at his customer service approach, how he interacts with customers, how he takes on new opportunities. So if you are somebody like me or somebody like Matt, where you're starting a business or you've been running a business at least for a year or a few years in a creative space, you definitely want to check out this episode because there's a lot to learn from his mindset, how he looks at opportunities, when opportunities come up, how he approaches them. It's not something to be taken lightly, and I think a lot of people get this stuff wrong. So if you are in the creative space, photographer, videographer, whatever it might be, graphic designer, listen to his mindset and how he approaches this stuff because he's really getting out of the zone of small business owner, we only do X. He's more getting into the space of we're going to give you that small business feel and that customer experience, but we're on to bigger and better things all the time. So it's gotten me inspired to kind of step my game up and expand what I can do. And I hope that it does the same for you. So without further ado, enjoy this episode with Matt Barnhart. This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcast. If you're a business in Southwest Florida and you want to use a podcast to grow your business, scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link in the show notes at www.swflpodcast.com. Enjoy the show. All right, Matt, thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. The opportunity that you gave me, I'm super, super appreciative of. Thank you.
Yeah. So we connected because you reached out to me on Instagram, I think.
I did.
And you're like, hey, man, I like your stuff. And then, I was like, okay, cool. And then a few days later, I finally got back to checking it out. I was like, oh shit, this is really cool.
I guess okay.
I was like, dude, this is good. This is good quality. And so before we get into Amp Shots and kind of go through the history and all this stuff.
The honey-do list over there.
Yeah, the honey-do list. I want to talk about this helicopter video shoot that
Let's
you did.
do it.
All right, so sure. I go on Instagram one day and I pull it up and I see this like cool intro, and then all of a sudden you're going up in a helicopter filming boats and stuff like that. So what was the shoot for? And then maybe we can dive into some of the logistics of like a shoot like that.
Yeah, definitely. So being that Amp Shots is a multimedia company and we offer services within motion picture, still imagery, and graphic design, we're always looking to switch it up.
Okay.
We're always looking to implement our kind of twist on things, our own touch. Whether that's any industry we go into, we always want to have a good time and let people know and see on the opposite end when they're viewing our work that we had a good time.
It looks like it with the video that you sent. I'll splice some of it in with the clips that we put out. But
awesome.
It looks, I think you accomplished that goal. It looks really cool.
Thank you. Yeah. So with that, we are actually working on a partnership with a local company, aviation company that does primarily private charters, but they also do a number of different services within the aviation industry.
Okay.
something new for me. Obviously I am nowhere near a pilot, nowhere near aviation at all.
Sure.
I think the closest to flying is, aside from that, flying on Spirit or Allegiant.
Yep.
So to coordinate something like that for one of our clients and whatnot, the whole idea behind it was to offer a different dynamic service for our marine and nautical clients.
Okay.
Being in Southwest Florida, we're surrounded by water, naturally.
Water, boats, everybody's boating down here.
Yeah. So a lot of companies that are in either brokerages or sales in the nautical maritime industry, they outsource a lot of their content creation outside of our parameters here from the
Sure.
Naples, Medina, Fort Myers area. Why should they have to? In the last 5 to 7 years that I've been shooting, obviously boats was not my main priority of I want to go do boats.
Yeah.
But it's always kind of the thing of, before I die, I want to say I did it.
Yeah.
I either sucked or I succeeded. Either way, it's going to be an S word, and there might be some S words along the way.
But you did it.
So we coordinated with some friends of mine and set up the first shoot. And that was honestly one of the coolest things. Hitting 110 miles an hour, leaving out of Pagefield and Fort Myers down to Naples in 13 minutes was incredible.
Yeah.
But aside from the dynamic, the adrenaline rush of it, having the helicopter provides for more asset when shooting. Drones are obviously very popular nowadays. Any retailer, Best Buy, Amazon is going to have them and whatnot. But you are limited to what you can do with drones and even the FPV drones too. Helicopters do provide more agility. You have a team that's with you, either 1 to 2 pilots that typically in this realm have already done something similar. They either have friends that one flies, one shoots photos, or they
Sure.
get hired out or something. So my goal is to bring that service to Southwest Florida, and it's not limited to just maritime or, the marine industry. We have rally clients that could take advantage of this. We have real estate clients that could take advantage of it. So within the 6 industries that we cover with Amp Shots, it's a multi-purposeful tool that we can use.
Yeah.
And speaking on terms of versatility and stuff, we're able to shoot photo and video out of that for the client and truly captivate not only on set, but when you're reviewing that, as you mentioned, you saw this great opening and then it just went even further and they kept going further. You're really able to captivate the viewer and kind of showcase, dynamic, adrenaline pumping content from a different perspective.
Well, and you can do it kind of in a story way, because the way that you film the particular one that I'm talking about is like a story. And the cool thing about, I think, being able to go up in the helicopter and film it that way was that you get to keep those same cameras, maybe even if you end up using a different lens or something like that, but you keep that consistent feel from the time when you pull your hand off the camera lens to open up the video, to getting in the helicopter, to actually flying and then filming the boats as they moved. Mm-hmm. It's a different feel than just the drone shots. The drone shot is a very you see everything, which when they first came out was whoa, dude.
You're is that my money flying away? Or no, just go 10 feet or come back. Okay, we're done.
Yeah. Well, actually, funny enough, one time I had a drone and I was flying it in Utah. I crashed it into a river. Well, I crashed it into a tree and it fell in a river. Then I opened it up a few months later and I turned it on. It flew up in the air and disappeared. And so,
really,
I must have short circuited something. But so, I mean, with this, right? So you make these super high quality videos, and it's telling a really cool story, honestly. But so you said that in the past, most of these yacht companies or marine companies would actually bring people in from outside of Southwest Florida to film stuff like this.
Correct, and even not necessarily Southwest Florida. Keep in mind, in our geographical region and within the population, you have a very niche market of businesses, whether that's marine, that's car sales, whatever. It starts narrowing down when you start getting into the creative industry. podcasts, video agencies, photo agencies, graphic design artists and stuff. There's people in Tampa, there's people in Pensacola, Miami that are still outsourcing just because the desire is there. The need and the actual supply and demand doesn't equal out right now.
What do you mean?
So, for example, let's look at Tampa, for example, right? Tampa Bay, as we all know, with the Bucks and everything, Tampa Bay Lightning and whatnot. Tampa Bay is a resolute and perfect opportunity for yacht sales, easy access to water. You have a more rotation for yachting and boating.
Okay.
Likewise to Naples. Only difference is you have a more metropolis area with Tampa. You're more kind of like a conglomerate of different industries mixing together. You have probably for every 5 miles, who knows how many photo agencies, video agencies. Down here, replicated, we're very far and few that offer, we do studio portrait work, we do architectural, real estate work. We don't do marine, right? So finding a company that kind of can handle not only those other two industries that I just mentioned, but it also include the nautical privileges as well, is something that's unbeknownst to the Southwest Florida area. So now our goal is to have, let's say, ABC Yacht Sales doesn't have to outsource to a media company from Tampa. They don't have to outsource to Miami. You can keep local business here within our own boundaries and county lines. Yeah. And you start to kind of evolve and grow that baby into who knows what over the course of the years and stuff. So it's almost kind of like a foundation thing. Yeah. Now, that's not to say that there aren't anybody here. I'm sure there is someone here. I'm 28 years old, so I'm a kid compared to most photographers in today's generation. So and there's probably people that do it better than I do. This is something new for me, a new foundation, entry industry, as we call it in the company, of going in. And, as we go through and progress, we'll start to communicate, we'll start to network with other people and learn from them, and maybe they'll learn a little bit of a level above twist that we put on things too. Yeah. That's how you grow in this industry, in my opinion, is just being kind to people and just networking and learning. You'll never stop learning.
Yeah. Well, because I know that this side of things is new to you, but you've been doing this, you said, what, 5 years, 7 years?
So I got started shooting in 2017 amateurly. Okay. I would say professionally, probably 2018 was when I was like, okay, cool. And that's when I actually started taking clients, quote unquote, actually booking shoots, whether that's writing down paper, putting on my Google Calendar, Apple Calendar, whatever. Sure.
Something more than just, hey, we'll give you $50 if you come film this. And you're like, all right, yeah, man, I'll be there.
And that was actually just photo back then. Formerly, the company was AM Photography. And after, I would say, the first year, I started to understand a little bit more about what it is to be a creative, Okay. And a lot of times you'll hear that term in our industry, a creative, A creative term allows you to have the opportunity to divulge into different mediums: video, podcasts, lyric videos, photography. You're not just a photographer. You're not just a YouTuber. You're not just some of those coin terminologies that we get thrown at daily. Yeah. So once I started understanding more about photography and the kind of similarities that video and motion picture had, I got addicted. Okay. And at that time, I was still working a 9-to-5 job because $50 a shoot is not going to pay my AT&T bill, my Netflix account, like all those bills and stuff. So it would work out to working 12, 14, 16-hour days on repeat and just growing. And also, too, social media. Back then, we were making money off social media and not having to put it back on social media. We didn't have to boost posts. Okay. Back then, people came to you organically, naturally. Hey, I love your work. I saw you. I spent 30 seconds scrolling through your page. Not having to put money back in the social media that you just made from a shoot, hoping that someone sees that for 30 seconds, hopefully a minute, hopefully more, So back then, getting started in the automotive industry, because I had a car, I was like, oh, I love my car. It's so cool. Taking pictures. I went to Best Buy on Black Friday. No joke. Walked in on the afternoon, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, okay? No one does that on Black Friday. You go at 12:01, right? Yeah. Or 1:01 in the morning, right? I'm like, I'm not going to get anything. It was the one in a stereo. I was like, hopefully I find something. My goal is to find just a cool camera, because I just had this little point and shoot camera, a digital zoom, the front shutter, the actual one that opens the lens up. Like, I had to manually open and stuff. Like,
okay.
it was bad. So went into Black Friday. I bought an iPad Mini and Canon T5i Rebel. I think overall like $650, and I started practicing in my car. I was like, cool, this is awesome. My friend saw the pictures on Instagram, and this was back when Instagram had a brown icon. The top left corner was like red, yellow, blue. It was like the OG icon.
Oh yeah, like the old school camera
Yep.
face.
You had post, like, home. The bottom, when you open the app, was blue. It had like white background, no dark mode, no story, reels, anything like that. And I would take pictures, try to do this thing called editing. I definitely was not editing back then. Now it is, but and I would just post my own car and stuff. My friends got word of it, and they'd be like, "Hey, I would love to get photos of my Nissan 350Z or my Mustang or whatever."
Yeah.
I was like, "Let's do it. Awesome. More cars, more photos. That's a win-win for me." So, and I would never charge. You know, that's in the time of like, yeah, I'm just a hobbyist. I just got off work at 6. Let's go catch sunset and do a photo shoot. But I would get tips. So that was my friend's way of paying me, and me not feeling guilty that like, yeah, I took your money and you're dealing with iPhone 2 photos, right? Because if I were to charge, I'd feel like putting pressure on, which is not a bad thing. You know, pressure is good, but
at the time,
there's always a time and place for everything. So they would throw me $5, $10, or get me a PDQ or something, right? You know, get food.
Yeah. So right, you were getting money for doing things that you basically viewed as a hobby, and you're almost like resistant to charging. Well, I feel bad for charging. So
I would give people back the money.
Really?
At first, I would see it like in my cup holder in the Mustang, or I would see it like on the hood or something, and I would put it back in their car.
Really?
I would. You know,
okay.
I remember one time, the first time I got a $10 bill, one of the crispest $10 bills you could ever get, right? This was like mint money. I give it right back. I was like, hey, I think you dropped this. No, it's yours. Like, I don't want it. So the first time I got a tip, I actually gave it back. I was like, no. I was scared. I was like, no, I don't want that. No.
Because the implications of getting paid for your work is
responsibility.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at that, you know, I had been in Fort Myers for, I want to say like maybe 2 years and stuff. So, you know, not a long time, but enough to have like a close circle.
Yeah.
But then if my friends were unhappy with the photos, crap, now I took your money and now they're not going to like me and now I have no friends and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you come up with a scenario in your head and then you play out all of the worst case scenarios. Well, of course they're going to hate me. If this is a little blurry. If you look actually at the spoiler in like the middle right of the picture, I don't like how the sun's shining a little bit on that. You know, here's your money back. So what was there a moment that you finally decided like, okay, I'm actually going to turn this into a business?
So over time there was, yeah.
Okay.
The tip started growing. It started at, like I said, $5, $10. Then it went to 20. Then it went to 40. Then 60. And progressively plateaued. And I looked at my girlfriend at the time and I was like, is this a thing? Is there a need for this? So, and then we started doing rolling shots. That was just doing still imagery. Then I started understanding how rolling shots work.
What is that?
A rolling shot is where, in layman's terms, you drag the shutter. So you're taking a picture slower. So in nerd terms for a couple seconds, your fraction, that 1/whatever number, 320, that's fast.
Okay.
1/5, that's slow. What that is, that's the amount of time that little window is open to let light in to actually take the photo. So when you mix that with motion, you get a very impeccable dynamic image. You have motion blur in the trees and stuff. Now you do run into risk and failure with having to be still and balanced, because otherwise you're leaving a camera. Think about like if you ever trying to take a video photo on your phone at night, right? It has like night mode. It like takes a long time to take that photo. if you move it just ever so much, that photo is like, oh my God, did I just go to the bar last night? Even though you're completely sober, right?
Yeah.
The same principle applies when doing rolling shots. So if you look through our feed, you'll see these photos that the car's on the road, and there's a billboard blurred, there's trees blurred in a linear pattern, like a linear direction. And basically that allows us to, one, be a level above and offer a different dynamic service, but it's also, again, adrenaline rushing. So when I first got started, what you do is you legally hang out of a car. At the time, I was shooting out of windows and stuff. So I'd roll down the window, you coordinate with the car that's with you that you're shooting. They go the same speed as you, and you start shooting. And what that's doing is the subject is still with you, going the same pace.
But the background is blurred.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that really just creates this like stunning image that, sure, you could Photoshop it. We've done Photoshop before. Certain things that are either just too dangerous or just other constraints that we weren't able to match up to.
Sure.
But the more natural image, just like anything, it's going to be more beautiful.
It conveys better.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but you can tell. There's certain things that you can't tell, but you might not be able to tell when you're seeing something that's Photoshopped, but you almost can tell when something's not Photoshopped, and you get the natural feel.
Exactly.
There's something that stands out about it.
Exactly. So I started doing rolling shots, and looking back, they are not rolling shots to what we're doing today.
But it was a stepping stone, right?
It was.
It was the foundation that you built everything else on.
Exactly. And over time, we started growing more and stuff, and we started AM photography officially.
Okay.
And I was on a shoot one day, and this is talking about how we turned into a 5+ industry-wide brand now. My very first supercar shoot that I had, it was a Audi R8, the V10 Plus. Very first supercar I ever shot. So obviously, naturally, I'm a kid in a candy store. Oh my gosh, can I just give you my house? Like, let me shoot your car. It's great. The owner was a realtor, had a brokerage and whatnot, and we were on set shooting off of Daniels Parkway. At one of the spots, he saw a photo again on Instagram and was like, wow, your work is awesome. Can we set up a shoot? I was like, yes. Can you just get here now?
Yeah.
So time came for the shoot and whatnot, and we're, chit-chatting. A big thing for me is customer service. Obviously I want to have a quality product, but I also want to be a quality person with that too. Because, you might 110% like the product. 100% of that is going to take away the value you're getting from the person doing the service.
Yeah, if you're not pleasant to work with, or you're not listening to what they need.
Exactly.
You might take the best picture that they've ever seen, but they're like, is it worth it to work with you?
Yeah.
You
So that's been a huge, foundation for me, the way I was raised and stuff, from my parents and all of my friends and stuff.
Sure.
So as the shoot progressed, he's like, have you ever done real estate photos or house photos? I was like, no, but I'd love the opportunity to. And he's like, well, I have a listing coming up, and this was before world shutdowns, before gas hikes, but like, this is normal times.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, definitely. So after the shoot, I went home like, how do I shoot a house? I normally shoot the things that go in the garage of the house. I don't shoot the actual thing that is housing the thing I normally shoot. I shoot cars that go in garages. I don't shoot houses.
Just come back to the YouTube Academy.
Academy. It was fantastic. A full ride scholarship. So he got the photos back and gave me a phone call. And that phone call, you'll hear it time and time again. If you ever meet me in person, you'll hear me say it. That phone call is what rang with me and still sticks with me, and is the, again, stepping stone that led me to the solid foundation I have now. He got the photos back, and I would literally text them to people because I didn't know about Dropbox. I didn't know. I'm literally 2 years in the game. I didn't know what to do.
Sure.
He took a screenshot and sent it back to me. He's like, you went a level above any of the other clients I've dealt with, any of the other vendors I've dealt with. Your personality is great. And just those 3 words, like, for some reason just resonated with me. A level above.
Yeah.
It's a very common sentence. It's a very anybody can say it, but can anybody do that? So had the house shoot. It went well. It went great. The photos, he was obviously knowing that I shoot cars. I don't shoot homes, but he was understanding and willing to kind of grow with me a little bit. So that allowed for the expansion and networking. Hey, I have a Matt here who he does car photos, but he's also looking to get into real estate and grow his portfolio. And again, the same thing, that orbital of I don't charge. I want to build my portfolio. I want you to tell me I suck. I want you to tell me that you wouldn't show this to a homeowner or something, because if I keep doing the same thing 5 times, that 6th time is going to be, oh, this is great. And then someone's going to tell me in my face, and I'm just going to just drop dead meltdown,
Yeah.
So as we progressed and whatnot, I started getting into my home, started listening to homeowners, started just doing the things I know best. Be human.
Yeah.
And understand the skills that I have can be beneficial in a business asset and also the personal asset. It could be someone who wants to sell a home and they don't want to really do it brokerage. They don't want to do realtor. So many different opportunities and stuff that I was like, this is really great.
Yeah.
That being said, this is 2022. We now are a 6-wide industry. Just from the, founding principles of no, but let me give it a try. You don't know if you can do it until you do it and you fail.
Yeah.
Right? One of my big things is you won't know how successful you are until the very end. Because you're always building up to that. The very last breath, you could have $1 billion. You could be Jeff Bezos' son, Elon Musk's son, all these celebrities, whoever. But success isn't defined by in the moment. It's defined by a legacy that you leave behind. And not even financial. It's defined by how many people you've reached out on Instagram and just had a conversation with, So we went from automotive to doing houses. Hey, do you do portraits? I want to do family portraits while I'm in the house shooting. No, but I probably could. Do you have examples? And showed me some examples of Christmas photos. So then I got into doing portraits. At a portrait shoot, the aunt and uncle loved them, so I would shoot the grandsons for the grandmother for football, for whatever, athletics or whatever. Hey, do you do weddings? My niece is going to be getting married. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And then just evolving and whatnot.
Yeah.
And here we are today.
That's cool, man. Well, it's interesting you say it's kind of about the legacy, but one thing that I'm finding too, as I'm going through this stuff, it's kind of defined by those individual moments, though.
It is.
And you don't know what's happening in the moment. And a lot of times what I found for me with some of this stuff and figuring out where the business goes and how it evolves is a lot of the times the things that end up changing the most and making the biggest impact, you're pissed off almost when they happen to you, because you're like,
right.
How dare that person say this thing?
Right.
No, I'm doing good. And then you're like, am I doing this right?
Now you look back at that in 20 years, and those are the memories that are going to stick with you, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be, you're always going to get praise. You're always going to get joy and stuff. That's easier to do as humans, It's those why did she say that?
Yeah.
I talked to her nice. I treat her nice. I went the extra mile for him. Why did he do that, But it's those memories that you look back on like, okay, wow, that maybe was like a roadblock then. Now I see why that was a roadblock. There's two-way streets.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and sometimes the feedback or the advice comes as a real hard pill to swallow, and it's like sometimes it's a kick in the teeth, and you're just like, oh man, I can't believe they said that, and then you're thinking like, I can't believe they're right.
Right. Especially in your industry, you talk to people.
Yeah.
All you can do is praise, and hopefully the conversation is good enough. Otherwise, people are like, no, that was terrible, and you got to overcome it, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's right. So it's interesting that you had the free aspect in doing things for free, because I feel similar in that way of I started all this by doing it for myself. I knew I wanted to start a business with this, so end up doing everything where you can mess up on your own stuff, which is, I think that's a good way to start.
Definitely.
And even doing this podcast, like with the content stuff that we create after the fact, a lot of it, all of it leading up to kind of where we're at now. I did a lot of stuff for free to build out the base, to have something to share. Because like with your portfolio, you can basically now go to somebody who's asking for, services and say, oh, hey, we charge this much and here's our work that we've done. Like you have something to point to.
Exactly.
I don't know. So it's, I ended up going a similar path, but how do you view it when you go from not charging to starting to charge? Like, do you have anything in your mind, maybe like past or something that comes up that puts some sort of block on you being willing to charge or asking to charge people for a creative service or charge like a premium amount for a creative service? Because you offer top-notch stuff just looking at your work.
Thank you.
How do you, is there a moment where you go from like not being confident to being confident? What's that like?
Sure. It's, end of the day, value.
Okay.
You take a look at a lot of corporations, Amazon, Citigroup, Gucci. At the end of the day, those CEOs, those founders, those ancestors to those companies had value before they became these megatropolis companies and whatnot. I think as, a small business, then that's what AmpShots is. Granted, we do appear as a, large scale, and we, act and orient ourselves as a large scale premier media company, agency, whatever you want to call it. But end of the day, our mindset is mom and pop. We want to be that corner store studio freelance that you go in, chit chat, do business, cool. Chit chat for an hour, cool. Whatever, the case might be. Regardless, you're going to find value.
Yeah.
You might not spend money with me then, but you might spend money with the next time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
I think it's always a difficult, propaganda, especially starting out. As I mentioned, I gave that first $10 back. I was like, nope. My fingerprints are on that now, right?
Yeah.
It's just, when I say value, there's two sides to that. Yourself, starting out, and also for the customer, for the client. Photography is a very saturated market. It's a given. One of the most predominant saturated markets is going to be portraits. It's going to be pets. It's going to be cars. Two of those don't really interact with you. Cars and pets.
Yeah.
So that really only narrows you down to portraits and stuff and doing family photos, Groupon, stuff like that. If I were to give advice to people upcoming, and I hope that this podcast, touches someone, whether it's a professional business that wants to hire us, coming forth, or if it's just a student listening, one thing I would like to kind of, proclaim is don't give in to yourself, which doesn't even make sense when you first hear that. But
what do you mean?
Your mind is going to run circles around you, just as we mentioned, a few minutes ago. Do I do this way? Do I do it this way? End of the day, when you're first starting, you're going to figure out what's the most valuable. Is it gaining $1,000 for a photo shoot? Or is it charging a little bit less than that, giving a little bit more, and making $2,000 on the next one? You know what I mean? You could charge $1,000 the first time and charge $1,000 the next time. That's only $2,000. Right? But if you make that customer, make that person feel humble enough, like, wow, this is fantastic. They went the extra mile. They were hilarious. They were very, kind, very humble and stuff. I'm going to pay double next time for a shoot. Now you just doubled yourself just from adding value to that experience. End of the day, any photo shoot you do, it's an experience.
Yeah.
Hanging out of a helicopter, hanging out of a car, shooting, anything that you're doing, it's an experience. You're freezing time. So people are going to cherish that, whether it's for principal money or if it's just for your school principal. It's going to be cherished and, an experience to look back on and stuff, whether it's marketed, whether it's put in a photo album or something. So I think the biggest thing is, financially, to figure out what you can do. Do marketing. Every quarter we kind of go through our feeds there, and we just kind of look like, okay, could we be charging more? Could we be charging less? It's not always more, especially in today's times. We're coming out of a 2-year progression. I wouldn't say recession like back in 2008. We're progressing forward in times that our generation is not accustomed to.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of maneuver yourself and be kind of malleable, and accept, whatever you can take right now, as funny as that sounds, because you don't know what's going to be next. It's very, I wouldn't say trying times, but it's very adapting times.
Yeah.
Things can be night and day difference in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
So, maybe a little bit longer of an explanation, but I would say value,
No, I think that's important. It's important to touch on because it's something that I go through with this business as well. I mean, you're talking about podcasts, you're talking about video interviews to highlight, the value that businesses bring. So
Right.
it was useful to me. So really, in essence, it's two fronts. It's you find the value kind of for yourself, almost like, is this valuable to me? Am I seeing the value on this side? Whether it's the way that you're spending that time or the money that you're making for that time, but also delivering value for the customers, because if they're going to end up paying you and you can find a way to deliver even more value within that amount that they're paying, the chances of them coming back, working with you again, and possibly paying you more is much higher because they're happy with not just the work, but they're happy with you and the value that you bring.
They're comfortable.
Yeah. So on this front, when you start working with different businesses, I know that you work with a handful of businesses in a huge capacity, and then you have a bunch of other customers as well. Right. How do you go in as a business owner and figure out what they need help with and where you can actually deliver value to them? What's that process like?
So we try to make it as easy as possible. And that's a very cliche statement. Oh, we make it timeless. We make it. But just the way it is. We try to make it easy for them. What do you need? You came to me for something. If I run a bakery, right? That customer comes in. You need bread for dinner? You need bread for breakfast? There's 2 different times of the day, right? We try to make the process easy in the fact of there's so many different services we offer, and there's so much room to spend money with us, but we don't necessarily need you to do that. We want to, as you grow, we grow with you. Our companies, our clients do well. We do well with them because A, they're going to talk about us, hopefully.
Yeah.
2, we're going to be able to use those statistics. We're going to be able to use those facts and write those down on stone tablets saying, this is the pudding, this is the proof, put it together, the proof's in the pudding, So our process, it depends on what they're needing. Do you need an overhaul for a menu? Do you need social media content? Do you need website content? The issue we run into today's times is social media and professionalism get intermingled a lot,
How so?
So a lot of people like to use the terms of shooting for social media and shooting for websites.
Okay.
Yes, 2 different mediums. However, if you kind of pronounce yourself to, I shoot for your Instagram, I shoot for your Facebook, you're limiting yourself to a capacity that maybe, again, the value, you're going to set your value of like, oh man, they want something front page of the website. They want something for their billboard. I don't know if I can do that,
Yeah.
So our aim is to kind of hybrid, being a hybrid media agency that we offer all these different services. We want to convey to the client as well, like, hey, yes, we will do a monthly subscription with you. We will do this one-time thing for you. Let us know if you need more. We're not the type of people to say, okay, what's next? Okay, what's next? Because there might be that time point like, okay, we're done for now. Grow. All right, next quarter, 3 months down. Okay, we want to do this now,
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 months, we're sitting back, we're watching, we're happy because our family, I call our clients family and stuff. Our family is going crazy. They're doing awesome, and while we're adhering and kind of working with other clients, they're doing great things, networking with them and whatnot, and bring those 2 companies together. Now we're doing joint shoots and stuff and whatnot. So, we do shoot for Instagram, we do shoot for Facebook, but the content, as a lot of people call it now, can be kind of translucent. You can see that professionally on an Inc. 500 website, you could see on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I say Inc. 500 because I know you had a guest on here, one of the Dobman members.
Yeah. You did some work for them too, right?
I did.
Well, that's part of how we got connected. All right, so now I remember that actually. So you're like, hey, I did some work for them. I saw them on the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
So before I really started getting into the commercialized scene, a lot of growing up into this industry, a lot of it is, as we would call, like private clientele. The cars, the performance shops, the houses and stuff, more private clientele, right? D3 glass, my architectural glass, and my shower door, obviously, as you know, I have a facility off of Alico Road. When you step into that showroom at their facility off of Alico, you are greeted with very grand glass panes. Those are my photos in those panes of glass.
Really?
So Bill reached out to me. Formerly, I was actually a photographer for 239 work, as you mentioned off air earlier. So I was their creative at 239 work.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that relationship actually initiated through cars. Alex, who was the founder of 239 work, amazing guy. I've learned a lot from him. It taught me a lot of the stability, as fundamentals that I have today and whatnot. He had a BRZ that was wide body on bags and whatnot, and I did a shoot of his car one night off of Daniels again at night, and he was kind of telling me about these business ventures that he was looking at pursuing and whatnot, of opening a co-working space. I was like, oh, that's a cool idea, join different businesses, Golf Navigators, Domain Realty, like all these different things in one place. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like a networking palooza, right?
Yeah.
So long story short, that I was grateful for the opportunity because I went in and I would shoot events there. In return, have an office space there. I covered events, and it was great and whatnot. 239 work is amazing. My shower door actually spoke one night there at 239 work. And I would go to those events, and obviously I'm working them, but being the guy that I am, I want to learn everything about you. I want to know what you eat, what your sleep schedule is, how many times you go to work a day. I want to, if I like you, I want to be you. And as creepy as that may sound.
Sure. But you pick up you try and learn from the people that you see succeeding. So
right.
like somebody like Keith especially, it's just like he's doing all these things. He's out there. He's on social media all the time. They're growing this huge business. It's
right.
Like, I get it. I know you said it like a joking way, but yeah, I understand. You like try to find those people and you emulate the successful aspects. I mean,
learn from the worst and listen to the best.
Yeah.
It's
a good quote.
So I was speaking with Bill one night who was speaking there afterwards, and for 5 minutes, it wasn't a long time, but that 5 minutes was 5 hours to me. Taking in like a sponge all the key fundamentals that growing up, I still remember the story that Bill told me of they had this huge corporate job up north, and their truck broke down with glass on it. And it was just one of those make it or break it opportunities. Like, that was the job. Like, you do that person is going to send you so much work. They sent a tow truck to the van or the truck that from my shower door, towed the truck to the client's house with the glass on it, and still executed the job.
Yeah.
So it's, capacities like that I learned from him, Donna, Keith, all of them over there. I was like, that's awesome. So fast forward to, I want to say it was 2018, 2019. It was before the pandemic.
Okay.
They reached out to me because of the type of equipment that we use. We are predominantly Sony driven. Love Sony.
Sure.
#alpha, right? So they use a printer that prints like on baseball stadiums, like, those big banners and whatnot. So to do so, you can't use an iPhone because you have megapixels, you have certain statistical like metadata that you need to have to actually blow up an image, right? So they reached out to me and said, hey, we want to combine our 3 babies together. So if a client comes into our distribution and headquarters here, they see what all we have to offer. The design, the production, and the architectural side, like D3 glass, architectural glass, and all that. So I was like, that's awesome. So I was actually blessed to have the opportunity to actually tour the facility before the grand opening. They gave me a tour of the executive offices on the top floor and through the manufacturing facility in the back and whatnot. Super overwhelming. You're walking through this place that no one other than, internal company has been through. And it's still a kid. At this point, I can't remember if it was
24,
28. Yeah,
23, 24.
That, working and talking, having conversations with Inc. 500 people.
Yeah.
The Inc. 500 is 500 of the Inc. 5000 of fastest growing companies in America. So a lot of people would dispute that and like, oh, that's cool. But to be able to be in the same room, let alone walk through their facility of someone that's nationally recognized as just doing amazing things, like that's incredible.
Yeah.
So sum it all up, we ended up doing different shots within the facility, and one of the goals was to have the all up front. So like I said before, when you walk in there, kind of like stone pillars, so you can almost like walking into the facility, you kind of like see, you see the huge cutter, you see the design, like all these big machines that play a part in the fundamentals of My Shower Door, all their companies and stuff, all their sub-brands.
Yeah.
All in one place.
And bringing that vision together.
Yeah. And again, just coinage that we have, that was really a level above for me. I even have a photo on my phone of shaking Bill's hand and stuff, and we're still very, very close today. The Dobbins are just those type of people that it's family. Whether you're adopted in, whether you're a business, like they're just kind, gentle people. And, you resonate with that quickly.
Yeah. I mean, like Keith was the first person to come in and
that was the first podcast that I listened to.
Yeah. And he came and did the other podcast that I have and just helped out, introduced me to a bunch of people. So, yeah. I mean, yeah. And it is interesting kind of your approach too of just go work with people, like find these people, meet them, go work with them, see what it leads to, because I interviewed Keith and then I put that out there. Somebody reached out to me. His name's Brian. He's like, hey, I left a message on LinkedIn and said, hey, I'm interested in doing this. He came in here. I interviewed him for the show. His son is now an intern for me. I went to a mastermind that he put on last week. By doing that, I got to meet business owners from around the country.
Right.
That totally changed the way that I look at the services that I offer, made me realize, hey, you should do this, you should stop doing that. You're underselling that. The value of this is way higher. Look at this. And it's just,
right.
It's kind of crazy the amount of people that you get to meet by just doing something like that. Just
right.
kind of going, taking a chance, seeing what happens. Sometimes even if you don't know what the hell you're doing, you're
right.
like, all right, I'm going to figure this out, and you just keep rolling. And it's kind of amazing the opportunities that pop up.
Exactly. And like you just said, I mean, those are all experiences. The mastermind, having the intern, you're going to learn things from your intern that like, oh, wow, that's so cool. And that's someone that's shadowing you, sticking with you, looking up to you, right? I mean, it's just value. End of the day, wherever you seek value, it's so many different opportunities, and especially where we live out here. Southwest Florida is a melting pot. Mm-hmm. We are so close to everything. We're 2 hours from Tampa, an hour from Miami. Like
people from the Midwest come down.
Right.
People from New York are starting to come down.
Yeah, they need to go back that way.
I know.
Nothing against you guys, but these roads are only so wide.
They're only so wide. And I'm from Long Island originally, so I know how crazy everybody is from New York.
It's paradise.
You guys got to chill out,
right?
All right?
But and again, opportunities like this that, being a small business owner, some people, it's just a podcast, you know? It is just a podcast. It's
Yeah.
just something that, to me, I find is going to be rewarding. I'm going to look back, show my kids this, whether they're into photography or into circus, Olay, I don't know.
Yeah.
And say, you know, this is something I did, you know, and,
Yeah.
you know, someone's going to hear this, and hopefully at least one person is like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
I gained a follower on Instagram. I gained a text message or whatever.
Or they can listen to it and hear the way that you approach this stuff and go reevaluate what they're doing. For
Right.
me, this time it happened to be a mastermind that I got the stuff from. But sometimes I'll listen to podcasts. I'll listen to Joe Rogan. I'll listen to somebody, Tim Ferriss, whoever it might be. And then you hear somebody say something and it just makes you reevaluate, you know, oh man, I gotta think about this differently.
Right.
Like either I'm too closed-minded or maybe I'm too open-minded and I'm running a million directions, which that's definitely one of my problems. Is like, yeah, I can do that. How am I going to do that?
That's called eagerness, and eagerness is never a bad thing, you know? That's excitement that can be used in so many different cool ways.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I need a nickname that incorporates eagerness or something. Like somebody called me a squirrel one time. They're like, hey, you got some great ideas, but can I tell you something? I was like, sure. They're like, you're like a squirrel. You're like running in every direction. And I was like, I don't think that's a compliment.
Right.
Is it? They're like, it's not a compliment, but it's not a compliment.
And again, that's going to be one of those memories. Look back in 20 years. That why did they say that one thing? You know, and that maybe not necessarily fuel the fire then, but that's going to stick with you, and that's just who you are as a person.
Yeah, well, especially when it comes from somebody you respect. Like the guy that told me that, I follow him on Instagram. I see the stuff he makes. Like, it's helped me figure certain things out. And yeah, when somebody like that tells you something, you listen, right? It's like your conversation with Bill. It's like, you know, you have those moments, and a smart person will listen to that because you look at the success that they've had in building these things. It's, yeah, this guy knows something. Let me listen.
Exactly.
You know, and just keep an open mind.
One of the other things that Pitbull is one of my like role models. I listened to Pitbull ever since like in middle school, high school.
Okay. I gotta be honest. I did not expect you were just about to say that.
It's always unexpected with me. Like I said, and mainly, you know, obviously, the Latin culture is beautiful. Whether it's in the emotion, it's in music and stuff. It's just culture, right?
Yeah.
A Pitbull just resonates in business, you know, like he is in everything, whether it's the grand opening of the Hard Rock in Fort or Hollywood over there, to having his own, you know, liquor companies, vodka and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the things that stuck with me was his intro for his Planet Pit album. This is like back in like the 2010 era, like 2008 to 2012, right? He had an intro for his album and whatnot, and in that intro, it's like a maybe 20-30 second thing. It's like what he would go on live sets. That's his intro to introducing himself to the audience, right? He pre-recorded that on his album, which is kind of cool. It's kind of like DJ Khaled's "Weeded Best," or hopefully nothing gets copyrighted here, but yeah, right. In one of the lyrics is he is in the music business, but half these fools don't know music, don't know business, and that stuck with me. I was like, that's kind of cool. It sounds good, but also like I spun off of that. Like that's cool. And growing up, I would watch interviews on YouTube. Mm-hmm. I would watch interviews with Pitbull on the Today Show. I would watch interviews like anywhere, forums, articles, whatever, and understand, you know, why did he write this album? What was he feeling during this? And one of the things in an article and video that I got was he was talking about the music business, right? It's music and business. 10% music, 90% business, you know? And that, again, has stuck with me. Like I said, I'm 28 years old, so, you know, I heard that back when I was a sophomore in high school. You know what I mean? So that's like something that resonated with me over all these years. You could give 110% of that 90, you know? I own a media business, a photography business, right? 10% of that is the photography, you know? That 10% is going to be my all out, you know? That's not saying only give 10% effort. You know, my all-out effort only makes up a certain portion of my photography, my media business. It's the business side that we've been talking about, the value, the, you know, why do this, you know, that resonates. And any room you go into, you don't know who you're going to meet. I could have walked in this door today. You could have had, you know, the governor here. You could have had the mayor here, you know. You'll never know.
Sure.
And just understanding that as through life and stuff, whether you're in photos, whether you're a scuba diver, whatever, like just always being open to listen. Like you said, you know, you never know what you're going to take in. You might have that for 14 years stuck in your head like I do, like a crazy person.
It's not crazy.
Or you might, you know, only think of certain things and it might not work with you. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's not crazy at all. I mean, that's paying attention. It's paying attention to the world. It's paying attention to the universe, the universal flow, all that kind of stuff, however you envision it, right? But I have the same thing from songs. Like song lyrics will stick out to me, just that have been in my head for 15 years, like that are critical, that are fundamental to who I am as a person, that I heard when I was, you know, 12, 13, 14 years old, when, you know, kind of when you're just starting to get into music and figuring out like what stuff you actually like and what resonates. I mean, that's part of the reason why I do some of the stuff that I do. Like this piece is business, right? Like this particular thing, the business podcast, Southwest Florida podcast, and then the other services that I'm rolling out now, that's business. And it's interesting you said 90-10. I am, now that I have, you know, I've got all this stuff figured out with the audio, camera setup, the process, everything like that. That used to be the 90.
That was the 90.
And now, you know, now that's getting more towards the 10, and then the business side is actually taking over. But with the music I make or the other podcasts I do, and even with this podcast, and when I get to have conversations like this, there are things that you can talk about. There are things that you can put out there that it'll find somebody at that right time. And you don't know who you're going to put this out to and what message they're going to hear. Because there might be some kid that's 15 that saw your stuff on Instagram that happens to listen to this. It's like, damn, dude, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like,
I want to do that.
Oh, I want to do that. Or even if they want to do something entirely different, taking what you learn and applying it here, you can do that. Like Pitbull has all these other things. He performs on stage. He does all this stuff. He's a musician. But now you take the same principles and you apply it to photography, videography, your customer service, the way you deliver value. And some of that stuff comes from like a simple comment or really an intro track on an album that led you to finding these other comments and things like that. You don't know who you're going to meet or what kind of stuff you're going to come across. You got to just pay attention and be open to that. Funny story about Pitbull is I worked at a call center in Orlando one time. When I was probably 22. I only lasted 2 months there.
Just not your feng shui?
It was borderline scam. I found that out later on. But you were just reading your script like 35 times a day. But one of the girls that worked there, she was a professional dancer, and not just like it's not like, oh, a professional dancer and then like stripper or something. It was she was literally like a professional dancer, and she would dance for Pitbull on stage. So awesome. She would work in the day, and then she'd go to the Orlando Executive Airport and get on a private jet and fly to like Oklahoma or Colorado wherever the tour was. She would perform for like 2 hours and then fly back on the private jet to Orlando and leave. But so she was like, hey, if you want anything signed from Pitbull, let me know. And a lady, her name's Rhiannon, that I used to work with, she like loves Pitbull. She loved Pitbull at the time. So I got a book for her, and I gave it to this girl. She got it signed from Pitbull, and I gave it back to Rhiannon. And she's like, we always talk about Pitbull now. Like, now you have that memorabilia.
Yeah.
But she said he was super professional to work with. Like he never like hit on the girls, like did sleazy stuff. She was like total professional. So when you said the 90-10 business thing, I was like, yeah, that makes total sense based on somebody that knew him directly.
that's how you make 90 million, you know?
Yeah.
No matter what, whether you're performing on stage, funny enough, not to get too sidetracked, so my parents own an architectural firm up in Punta Gorda. It's been in business since 1969. Okay. Specifically in custom homes. They dabbled in commercial before that all got crazy and whatnot. So now it's really just, private custom homes and whatnot, and they have contractors, obviously, right? So the reason I bring this up is Pitbull has his own bar, iHeart 305. It's a franchise. He has a couple different locations, whatnot. He obviously Mr. 305, Mr. Worldwide, right? Loves Miami. Ocean Drive is his beach. He actually, I want to say, bought part of the Versace Manor, and that's where one of the locations, I guess you would say, like the flagship of iHeart 305 is at the Versace Manor. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Which is located on Ocean Drive. One of my parents' contractors actually did the construction work for iHeart 305 for a Pitbull, for Armando.
That's pretty sweet.
So again, small world, this global instrument, Pitbull, coming back home and coming in. Although my parents didn't have a direct affiliate with that specific project, I'm a third party to that experience because of my parents knowing someone doing work for him and stuff. And they, the gentleman, the owner of the contracting business, said the same thing, like very professional, like super fun, super cool, but it was all about execution and making sure that everything was done proper, and happily.
Yeah.
So.
Agreed. Well, I want to pivot here because I want to ask you about your blindness.
Blindsidedness or blindness?
Well, your overall blindsidedness.
Right.
No, but so you're half blind, is that
correct?
Okay. So when you told me that on the phone, after I had looked at all the videos that you make, I was like, oh wow, this shit's really good. And you tell me that you're half blind. I was pretty surprised to hear that. So
yeah.
What?
You can't make
how does that work?
Yeah, it's something that again, I'm not one to be secretive or modest or anything. Like the way you see me now, just like a celebrity would, the way you see me now is going to be the same way I walk down to get in my van and go back to Sanibel where I live. So I'm always about, they're not even secrets, so telling people where I came from, who I am, and where I'm going, So being in the media industry, you kind of need your eyes to see things. And otherwise you are going to get those harmful comments of like, stop.
Yeah.
So I have an eye condition called keratoconus. Keratoconus is an eye condition that essentially the cornea, hopefully all the cameras can see this, the cornea starts to form, it's flat or circular, I guess you could call it, orbital, because it sits over your eyes, starts to form into a cone.
Okay.
And with advancement, if there's too far in progression, it will split and tear open. So this dates back all the way to when I first got my license. That's how far back this story goes. We're not going to go that far back. I will keep it short and sweet. But I wanted to get my driver's license. And to do so, as you know, you have to do a vision test. They have that little box, and you have to look into the box, and do you see it? And they kind of gauge, how well your vision is. And then depending on what you rank or score within that test, they put a rank on your license. Needs this additional support, whether it's extra mirrors or a certain light or something. So, like I said, I'm from Punta Gorda. So I go into the Punta Gorda DMV. I do my test and everything. And you do the vision test before you go drive. So I'm looking in this box, and I can't see anything. It's like just pure white. And I told a lady, I was like, hey, I don't think it's on. Looking back, I was very rude as a kid. I was like, hey, this isn't on, this isn't working. I probably should have reworded that a little bit better. Now, looking, hindsight's 2020. I told 2 or 3 times, hey, I don't think it's on. And she just kept looking at me stern. This dumb little 16-year-old trying to get his license, telling me how to do my job or whatever. So I was like, I can't see anything. And after 5 or 6 times, she's like, okay, you'll have to come back. And my mom was with me at the time, and we went to the vision thing. But my mom looked in there, and she's like, "No, I see the bars. I see what you're supposed to be seeing." So that initiated a new front of what the heck was going on.
Yeah, you had to go figure out what was happening.
So, and this is way before amp shots, AM photography, before I was in high school,
Sure.
So, after visiting numerous doctors in the local area between Inglewood, Northport, and Port Charlotte, we stumbled upon one doctor, an optometrist, that had an inkling that it might be keratoconus. We went to, like I said, a number of different doctors, and they're like, "Oh, you just need glasses. Oh, you just need contacts. Money, 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 money. Give me your money, right? If it doesn't work, let me do this for you. You pay me more money." So this one doctor said it might be keratoconus. These are the specialists that I recommend because I don't specialize in that. It's a very uncommon condition. I know of it just from in school, doing research projects, research studies and stuff. LA, Chicago, Atlanta, or Miami. And, I'm still in school. We can't fly out to LA. I'd love to go to LA. Can't fly to LA. Likewise for Chicago and the other institutes and whatnot. So
Miami is it?
Miami was the one. Right over the I-95, we went to Kendall, and the Baptist Hospital is located in Kendall. And Dr. Trattler is a world-renowned, funny enough, optometrist, and actually did a research study and worked with the EU for clinical studies for keratoconus.
Oh, wow.
And he's based in Kendall at the Baptist Hospital there. So went in and deemed it keratoconus. However, there was an issue. The condition had so far advanced in my left eye that it already ruptured and tore my cornea and left a permanent scar on my eye, and was at that moment, it's obviously not like a virus you can see on a microscope, but as speaking was starting to carry over into my right eye. And if nothing was put into action of remedying this, I would more than likely lose my vision completely. So that's go time. I'm 16 years old. I was able to get my license somehow. I don't know how.
They said, well, your vision's probably a little better than most of the people in Punta Gorda anyway.
Right,
so.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a little older clientele there. So there was two different ways to correct this. Two different surgeries or treatments, as they're called. Crosslinking, which is the surgery which I'll kind of go over a little bit, or cornea transplant. Cornea transplant, obviously, it sounds easy. Take a cornea, put a cornea, done. But issue with that is, unlike a heart transplant, other organs, it's a lot more methodical and more tedious when working with retinas, corneas, and just optometry in general.
I bet you're dealing with such a small body part or small organ with thousands of the tiniest parts. Yeah.
You don't, and this is not to degrade anybody else, you don't have a ton of options for that.
Yeah.
Compared to hearts, compared to kidneys, all this stuff, right? So they told my parents, because obviously me being a kid, I couldn't make this judgment call. It had to be someone that's older than me, had more reason of sound of let's do it this way. They mentioned to my parents crosslinking. And crosslinking is a procedure where they, I'll show you the photos after too. They prop your eyes open with plastic slats, so your eyes are completely open, and they put riboflavonoid drops in your eyes. So you lean back on a chair, and they put in these yellow drops over your eyes, so you're awake this whole time. It's about, I want to say a 30-minute or an hour process. I don't remember. And then they have little sponges that they rub it around on your eye, the liquid, and it's like a steroid essentially.
Okay.
And then you stare at UV light for 2 or 3 minutes for 30 minutes. So I'm leaned back on this chair, staring at the sun every so often with, again, the Latin culture is amazing, with, Spanish nurses and doctors that were super kind, amazing people. But I'm like, I don't know what to do. This is not like you go in to get stitches. You don't go in for a cold or flu, right? You're leaning back on a chair. You can't blink. You want to blink, but you're like, oh, I can't. And you just see this yellow drop come on your eye, and the whole world turns yellow. So, long story short, I've had 2 surgeries in both eyes. We were able to stop the progression in my right eye, but unfortunately, due to the weakness in my left eye, my tissue is not strong enough for laser buffing. So I do have a scar in certain lighting, which even in this atmosphere, you might even be able to see it at certain angles. I have what I call like a Harry Potter scar.
On your eye?
That actually you'll see kind of like a cut, like a groove in my eyeball. I'm not blind in the sense that I can't see you, right? If I were to close my right eye, I can depict who you are, obviously, but it's blurry. Sure. Think about that first moment when you first wake up in the morning after like a really good sleep and like your eyes open and it's just blurry. Magnify that by 5.
Yeah, I that's how it was before LASIK. Before I got LASIK, it was just like everything is a blur until I put my contacts in or put my glasses on.
The issue, glasses won't help because my prescription changed so rapidly throughout the process of strengthening my cornea and the strands in my eye. Mm-hmm. Contacts suck because I have this scar on my eye that's not supposed to be there. And so you have like a rock that's on your eye that's moving around.
Just catches on the contacts and everything.
So to this day, I'm part of a clinical study with the FDA. So that's how it all worked out. The procedure was actually not approved by the FDA. They still had more clinical study, notes to take and whatnot. So my parents were gracious enough to put me in the study. And I go back periodically for testing and just for things, to see how it's going and stuff. It's approved now, I believe, which is phenomenal. Still don't know if it's a hereditary thing, if it's a once in a blue moon. But round circle, not really the condition you want to have when you're taking photos looking at a subject, right? That too, speaking, you start other senses start to come to play more strongly.
Okay.
My auditory, like as I mentioned earlier when I first came in the room, I noticed a instant drop of acoustics and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Perfect soundproof, all that stuff. Vibrations, like I actually, funny enough as it sounds, I actually use my feet a lot for sensing vibrations. My girlfriend Jamie, I'll have her walk downstairs in front of me and I'll count the amount of steps and base off her vibrations that I feel, and I kind of time it that way. I can see the steps, but my depth perception is not always the best. So I've learned to kind of accumulate these skills to make it seem like I'm a normal with 2 eyes, like normal human being with 2 eyes. But I hear her take steps down. I hear her, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and she's going down. And I repeat that pattern in my head. Whoa. So I've taken those skills, and as Avatar, crazy as it sounds, it actually has enhanced my editing. It's enhanced my vision creatively. I'll take similar attributes that I've learned from my impairment, and when editing, tuning to beats, certain angles when shooting and stuff, and kind of hybridly mix those together in tune and be an offerable, different creative and whatnot.
That's awesome, man.
So it's not a hindrance at all. I love it.
It's just taking what you've got and using the situation that you have to create differently.
Yeah. And that's what media is. That's what content creation, that's what photography is. Be different.
Well, and one thing I'm realizing too as I go through and create this stuff, create music, all this other stuff, there's so many rules that you can follow, but a lot of times you end up creating these rules for yourself that there's no point in having them. You just tell yourself that you're supposed to follow them, or somebody else says you're supposed to follow them. And yeah, maybe there's validity to it. Maybe there's general principles that you want to follow, but you got to take those things that are your detriments and turn them into the thing that makes you unique.
Right.
I mean, that's every good artist and every good person that does these things has something crazy with them. There's something wrong with them.
There's a drive behind them.
Yeah. Well, there's a drive, and there's the detriments that they have, and you can choose to, I don't know, let it eat you alive, or you can choose to incorporate it. So
I mean, it's incredible. You know, I've been my team, incredible, that I work with at Amp Shots is fundamentally, like, they are, aside from our family, our customers and stuff, like, wouldn't be able to do what we do today without my team and stuff. We've been published 8+ times in various publishments throughout Southwest Florida. Naples Lifestyle Magazine, formerly as well, that I'm sure you know of.
Yeah.
Fort Myers Lifestyle Magazine. You know, a kid that has a vision impairment. One of the things that you'll see, because we follow each other on Instagram, you know, I have a fully focused mindset. You know, half blind in reality, but fully focused mindset. And that's one of those, you know, pit bull sayings, I guess you would call it, that I randomly will post, you know, because I could be blind in both eyes, but, you know, I know of world-renowned phenomenal photographers, artists, painters that can visualize through auditory, through scent. Like, it's just one thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So just be different.
Yeah, agreed. Well, dude, I think this is probably a good point to wrap it up. But before we go, where can people find you, and how can people get in touch with you to work with you?
Definitely. Well, before we end here, I want to thank you again, Southwest Florida Podcast, for bringing me on and kind of letting me explain my story and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
This was phenomenal. You guys have a great studio, great personalities, everything. But if you do want to work with us, you can find us on pretty much any social platform. You can follow us on Instagram at AmpShotsMedia, also on Facebook, facebook.com/AmpShotsMedia, YouTube, AmpShotsMedia.
Cool.
You can visit our website to see some of our portfolio work, as well as reach out to us via our contact form, ampshots.io. You can send us an email, info@ampshotsmedia.com, for any inquiries or any questions you may have on your creative project. And we want to go a level above with you, because when you go a level above, we go with you. So
yeah, hell
we'll
yeah, man. Good. All right, cool. Well, again, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. Let's do this again at some point. We'll figure it out, and we'll circle
Most
back
definitely.
to
Hopefully
time.
by that time we'll be 12 industries in. So we got to double it now, right?
Yeah.
The pressure is on.
Agreed. Well,
Awesome.
Yeah, then I'll stay on you, and if you can't come back on until you hit that 12 industries.
Perfect. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
dude.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. This episode is brought to you by Southwest Florida Podcast. If you're a business in Southwest Florida and you want to use a podcast to grow your business, scan the QR code on your screen or visit the link in the show notes at www.swflpodcast.com.